Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be again in Budva. I would like to thank you, Governor Zukic, that gives us this pleasure to meet each other, see each other as old friends, and also share our views in the region context. So thank you, Radoja. Regarding to your question, I will talk in English as my colleagues because in terms of monetary policy, for us it comes easier in some extent. So we are suffering similarly the same as our colleagues and the countries in the region from the inflation. Inflation is becoming now the issue, the topic that we are facing and we are struggling as the central bankers. And of course, we are reacting to the inflation with changing the stance of monetary policy. We are all starting to increase interest rates gradually, trying not to harm the economy, but as we are saying, we cannot compromise the price stability because price stability could create more harm if the central banks will not react towards the monetary policy changing course by increasing the rates. It's true what my colleague said that inflation is still lower in Albania compared to EU countries, but still inflation is increasing in us as well. The reason, one major reason why inflation has been not that much growing in Albania, it is the energy prices. The energy prices, the government has not increased the energy prices yet, despite the fact that they are planning to raise in the worst situation. We yet does not cover the whole needs of energy, so we are net importers of energy. Our sources, internal resources of energy are more in hydro, and then some other sources, but however, we are dependent on the climate change still, on the hydropower, so if there is a rain, situation is better, if there is no rain, situation is worse. So we'll see, but so far, energy prices has not pushed inflation up in Albania that much. However, inflation is increasing more than 7.6% recently, and according to our expectations as a central bank, inflation will be increasing during the next year as well. Probably by the end of next year, beginning of 2024, inflation will come. So the forecast of monetary policy, but we'll see, is that by the middle of the 2024, inflation will be in target of our central bank, which is 3%. Then this is very uncertain anyway. The monetary policy model provides us this, but we will see because it happened. For analogy, in the same terms, when we had a very low inflation, we were forecasting to increase inflation in a shorter period, but then it took much more time. It took close to a decade trying to reach the inflation target. Now we are changing course. So we're entering in the area of high inflation, and all central banks will fight with the high inflation with their monetary policy, trying hard to prevent inflation, break inflation, without harming the economy. However, this is the trend we are following now. We are increasing the rates. We have increased as a central bank 3 times the interest rate during this period. From the minimum historical base rate of 0.5, we are now at the level of 1.75, and based on the inflation figures and increasing, we'll continue the tightening of monetary policy as well. However, one eye is open on the other side on the financial stability, because the tightening of monetary policy definitely will have effects in economical growth, and we are trying to mitigate monetary policy with fiscal policy. It's very much needed a close cooperation of the central bank with the Ministry of Finance to harmonize and coordinate these politics and liquidity management in the market. But on the other side, as a regulator of the financial sector, we have to be very careful on the effects that interest rate risk and foreign exchange rate risk as well will have in the financial sector. Definitely, by increasing the rates, if there is a good transmission of monetary policy, will be reflected in the financial capacity of loan repayment of the customers, individuals and the businesses, because installments will be more expensive. So it is to be considered. However, as I said, we cannot jeopardize the price stability objective. So all this risk has to be mitigated. Foreign exchange risk is very, very sensitive in these situations because in case of devaluation of local currency, in Montenegro, you have euro and basically on one side you might not have a strong transmission monetary policy because monetary policy is done by ECB and you don't have a headache, but on the other side you don't have the headache of the forex risk. Forex risk is very good. It's an amortizer of the external and internal shocks. But on the other side, if this risk is going out of control in terms of crisis, this could create a real trouble for the central banks, for entire economy, for the businesses, for the country. For our countries that have a high level of debt, this could be a really a very big risk because it will increase the cost of debt for the government and then it will increase the cost for the unhedged clients, borrowers to the banking sector, which generates incomes in local currency and pays installments on the foreign currency. We have a high exposure of euro loans in the country and these euro loans, will be more expensive in repayment and this will create, in a chain effect, damages to the whole financial sector. On the other side, we feel confident despite the fact that the risks are seen on the downsides. We feel confident because the financial sector, due to regulatory measures taken in years, financial sector is performing very well and is very well presented in terms of indicators. Capital adequacy ratio, it's in average 19%. Banks are full of liquidity. They have a good risk appetite, but we see that they are very well risk-oriented, so they have provisioned portfolios pretty well, and what's most important, they have a good experience from the past crisis. So they have learned the lesson in some extent, but however, any crisis has got its own risks, so basically we have to monitor carefully to mitigate these risks. So luckily, in Albania, we have a pretty stable, even we have appreciating and not depreciating of the local currency, because for these years, we have been increasing of FDIs, increasing of remittances, and effect of tourism brings a lot of euro into the country. So based on these sources that incoming capital inflows are considerable, the local currency exchange rate is being stable and local currency is still strong. But in the contrary, then could be an issue because of exposure, high level of euroization in the country. We are having a 50% level, close to 50% level of euroization in the financial sector, and we have a considerable level of euro in the real economy. For that, we have presented a dollarization program years ago. It's a program which is being set in cooperation with our international partners, European Union, European Commission, and International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank as well. So basically, this program does not intend to avoid euro because our main trading partners are in Eurozone, but it is trying to diminish, to reduce as much as possible the euro effects or usage of euro unnecessary in these sectors of economy when local currency could be used. We are yet not in the stage, since we are having our local currency, we want to increase the transmission of monetary policy as an instrument for the country growth and preventing inflation, and on the other side to avoid or mitigate risks in the financial stability. For that reason, it's launched and undertaken a program of dollarization. Later, on the later stage, as we intend the European integration, we just opened the negotiation with the North Macedonia, but we know that there is a long way to go until the final acceptance to the EU. When we'll be in a stage like Croatia, for example, then we can turn into euro. But for the time being, it's very much needed usage of the local currency. So all in all, in fact, as all other central banks, we have started to tighten monetary policy. We are increasing the rates. The speed of tightening of monetary policy will be depending on the inflation attack and inflation effect. It's true, indeed, we are in a lower rate of inflation. We are still not yet on the two-digit numbers, but inflation is increasing. It's remaining a major risk. Inflation will continue to increase during the winter because of the energy prices. And there is also other prices effects like fuel, transport, which is reflected to the food and all commodity prices. However, I mean, the main instrument that we as a central bank is tightening of monetary policy, parallelly seeing carefully, not harming the economy and having an eye on the financial stability of the country by monitoring the risks of banks mainly. This is for the moment, I could say.